Just crazy that Jaws is still the standalone movie at the top of the food chain when it comes to shark movies. But
une fête, une immense fête.
What is up, Drive-By Movies here, and you are watching
Fresh Releases.
My name is James.
My name is Blaze.
And today we're checking out the film that's only been on Netflix for a couple weeks, but is already one of their most watched films of all time, Under Paris.
C'est fini.
Javier Gen's latest film entails saving Paris from a bloodbath. A grieving scientist is forced to face her tragic past when a giant shark appears in the Seine. So I think, like you said, this is the most popular film on Netflix currently. I think this film did a ton of streams, did really well. I mean, it's not the box office, but it did well in the next Netflix top 10. And it definitely shows that the era of shark exploitation has only just begun. James, what do you think of this film?
Well, first, I just got to commend the time that we're living in. Like, animals are back, baby. We need these more 80s animal thrillers. You and I remember watched a wild animal movie with Leslie Nielsen. I was like, they need to make more movies like this where just animals go batshit crazy on humans. With Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, you know, Kong versus Godzilla. And now this movie, just like, you know, these movies have never not been popular, honestly. It's just downfall is a lot of them are indies that kind of get overlooked, and a lot of them are also just really bad. Downfall is we get movies like Sharknado. Look how popular that franchise is, but everyone knows it's bad. If you make a realistic, good movie with animals, I think people will show up, and that is the case with Under Paris. However, is it actually good?
Not my opinion at all. I would say I'm not afraid to say I enjoy bad films. We were talking earlier, and I think in order for you to appreciate good movies, you have to at least know what a bad movie is, and this is definitely plays in that bad territory. Funny enough, you constantly have, you know, on Pluto TV, the Shark channel just on your TV 24/7. So I was watching a little bit of that channel, and some of those films were so bad. They're sci-fi era movies from probably the early 2000s, maybe the 2010s, early 2010s as well. But yeah, some of those movies were so bad, where this was kind of like that, but it never treaded into a territory of like winking at the camera and having a little more fun with it than I wanted. That's kind of what I wanted. When something's like bad, I at least want them to acknowledge to the camera a little bit, especially with some of the crazy plot twists that this movie takes, that where you have to take mental leaps and bounds for those to make sense in your head. But yeah, I just felt like this movie just kind of fell flat for me. Some of that CGI of these sharks was just absolutely terrible. Some of the practical effects they had were pretty damn good though.
Yeah, I mean, and also some of the cinematography of the film was really fantastic too. I was really impressed with a lot of the underwater sequences, especially the opening sequence with all the, you know, the trash polluting the ocean. Seeing that, like, you know, I thought was like really impressive and got me stoked. But then that sequence, though, of just our main character being dragged by the shark in super high speed, I was just like, this is stupid. Are you kidding me? So like the movie like won me over right away. And then that happened. I was like, oh gosh, like we're going into like, well, here's my problem with the Meg movies when we reviewed them. I thought like they didn't go hard enough into the B movie territory. And again, with this movie too, it's a B movie schlocky premise, but also just didn't turn and go full throttle. The only shark movie of recent years that I somewhat enjoyed was Shark Night 3D with Sarah Paxton, I remember. Even though that movie still has its faults, but I thought that movie at least like was understood where it was and went more into that B movie territory. And this has that, you know, feel of it, but just like is afraid to commit to it, which is a bummer because, you know, Javier Gens, I'm not, you know, so familiar with his work, but you and I have both seen Frontiers, fantastic indie horror film. That's one of the most brutal horror films out there. Highly recommend it. And just like, you know, if this movie, it could have been a schlocky premise with a serious tone, or it could have just went full schlock, and it just didn't do either. It just felt like in a little like safe barrier right down the middle of both realms, which is unfortunate.
And maybe, I mean, we definitely lie on different ends of the spectrum, I think, than like the general audience. And I know that this movie did really well, like viewing wise, especially on Netflix. I mean, if anything, that shows that it definitely tapped into something. I know that a lot of people probably were watching it because they heard it was stupid, you know, or maybe just it looks so ridiculous, like sharks literally under Paris, you know. Like that just looks insane. Like I think a lot of people maybe jumped onto this because they expected it to be Sharknado, and maybe because it takes itself obviously more serious than that. I think even The Room takes itself more seriously than Sharknado, really. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what general audiences kind of thought about this movie. For us, we wanted more of that just kind of schlocky movie, and this teeters that line of like wanting to kind of play towards that audience, and then also wanting to play towards maybe a general audience that's just up for, you know, more of a standard kind of like shark movie. And it seems like shark movies are their own genre at this point, really.
Right, yeah, and I'm glad to see that they're making a comeback with the success of the Meg films, but just, you know, I'm not necessarily saying I want a Jaws remake, but like, you know, we can get a movie like that. Again, I haven't seen Blake Lively's The Shallows movie. I know that movie had a more serious tone. I've just seen the ending of the movie, so I felt like I probably don't need to see the movie when I know how it ends, and I wasn't impressed with the way the shark looked in that movie. But, you know, we live in a time where I just wish sharks look fantastic, and we have the resources to make them look fantastic, but still a weird that a movie from the 70s is still like one of the best looking sharks, despite it, you know, you can tell it's not a real shark in that movie. But just crazy that Jaws is still the standalone movie at the top of the food chain when it comes to shark movies. But yeah, I mean, also this movie just leaves you wanting more too, and literally ends when you think it's just about to begin as well. Because I swear the trailer that I saw when this movie came out literally is just all images or scenes from the final 20 minutes of the movie, which is fun. But just like when I was like, oh damn, now we're getting somewhere, it just ends. I was like, what kind of ending is that? Like this movie is actually like, despite it being 100 minutes, it went by like that. I was entertained, but just like, but nothing really grabbed me to be like, all right, now the movie's getting good. I was just like, all right, cool, where are we going from here, and then finally just the movie ends when I was just like, okay, I mean, I guess we'll probably get a sequel to this with how popular it was, and it ends on this weird cliffhanger. But this movie promises what I thought we were gonna get, and it ends when we get there, I thought.
Yeah, I will going back to what you said earlier about The Shallows. I know you haven't seen it, but I just want to play it up a little bit to get it on your radar. But I do think that that's probably one of the best shark movies that we've had since Jaws. Easily. That's definitely, I would say, my favorite. I rewatched it probably 6 months ago. And yeah, I think it really stands up. It's, you know, obviously the total serious version of the shark movie, not like Shark Night. I enjoyed Shark Night as well, but that's definitely plays more towards that schlocky, fun B movie. That's the more serious, like kind of like homage to Jaws. It doesn't do anything specific for the genre, but it just does everything that the genre provides really well. And I thought, like, as being a CGI heavy movie, it never was a movie where the CGI bothered me. Where we're coming back to Under Paris, I felt like the CGI at times definitely bothered me. Like you mentioned, there's shots that are sped up, or just the way that the sharks are moving. It's just not, it doesn't seem correct. Like it goes into that uncanny valley aspect where you're like, that's not how a shark moves. Like that's really fast, or just it's just not moving correct. Like you could easily tell. Shallows wasn't one like that for me, and I think a lot of it has to do with shot composition. And in this film, a lot of the times, like when the sharks look the best, it's close-ups, it's glimpses of the sharks. It's even when they have one of the sharks on like an autopsy table, that's practical effects. I thought that looked amazing. But yeah, there's elements of like how you can cut up the film. Anytime where they're going a full wide of like a shark eating a person is just not looking good. Shark dragging a person, anything like that. I thought that that's when the CGI looks the worst. In general, that's kind of why when CGI looks the worst in all types of movies, is when they go to the wide, they show the whole thing moving amongst, you know, real actors. That's usually when you can kind of pick out why something's not working. But when you're kind of getting it in glimpses, close-ups, stuff like that, it really hit well.
And also another problem with that too is just like sharks are already scary to begin with, in my opinion. And I think that's why most people enjoy shark movies, because they are scary. Most people don't mess with the ocean, even if it's a non-shark environment ocean. People are still like, not going in there because of sharks. And so, they're already scary. I don't need to see them move in this crazy fast pace for a jump scare, or them to knock over a boat so ridiculously to where it jumps out like a Shamu and flips the boat over and stuff. Like, yeah, that might look cool on paper, but it didn't have to be like so ridiculous and over the top. And yeah, it's just like they're already scary. Like, just have it bite the boat and like maybe sink it down or something. Like, yeah, that might be unrealistic, but this movie already is unrealistic with the creation of this brand new Mako shark, I guess. That looks like a great white. I'm not too familiar with Mako sharks, but the whole movie I was just like, these things just look like great whites. But I guess they do clarify that this is its brand new species that we created due to the environment issues. But the message is there.
Makos exist, but this is I don't even, the fact that they can breed in fresh water and they're asexual breeding, like there's just a ton of stuff. So I don't even know. Yeah, it must be just a delineage of, that Mako shark. It's just, but yeah, ridiculous. I don't know. Yeah. I kind of liked all that fun aspect and over explanation of stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess, when the sequel comes out, which inevitably will come out, I'm sure, I'll be interested to see Paris, half underwater, basically, and see sharks terrorize the town. That sounds fun because, absolutely nothing was resolved in this movie. So, it's an entertaining watch. It's on Netflix, so it's easy to watch. I'm sure you already have seen it, so let us know what you thought about the movie in the comments below. That's a great way to help support the show.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And speaking of updates, be sure to catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and our own personal Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.